Welcome back, guys. We finished trimming this house over a month ago, and it's got a lot of cool details. I wanted to walk you through this one and show you just some of the different things we had to contend with on this really modern trim job. It's an awesome house, modern design, right on a golf course. It's really coming together well. Walking in here, nice big garage. Just got the epoxy floor down, and we left our baseboard off. That way we could let the epoxy go all the way to the walls. Now we're gonna come back and scribe our baseboard in place. Just wanna show you some of these little details. Over here, Paul built a really nice step. The homeowner wanted a big platform to be able to get into the house. So we've got some composite material here, and you'll notice the miters going around here. If you get up nice and close on that, these are really nicely done. We've actually just got biscuits in those with PL Premium and then sandwiched those together really nicely. So that'll hold up really well over time, but a really good just picture frame detail going around here. No exposed fasteners, looks really nice. We're in the kitchen right here walking into the house. As you can see, we're actually back to install baseboard now. Check out that video. It'll be coming next week on how we scribe baseboard over finished flooring. But going back here into the master bedroom, we had a couple hidden doors on this house that are pretty cool. Walking right through here, first thing we've got is actually a 3'6" by 8 foot by 1 3/4 inch thick door. Super heavy door, kind of silly, but looks great. Backing up here, we've got a slat wall detail that, you know, again, it looks pretty cool. Might not look like much now, but there's gonna be like a hard surface marble that's gonna go up here. Really cool wallpaper will be across the bump outs. So this is gonna be a neat space. What I wanted to show you here was a hidden door detail. Takes a little bit of advanced carpentry to execute details like this. I've got Rixson 370 pivot door hardware on this door. That's my go-to hardware simply because it's absolutely rock solid. Whenever you do hidden doors, you don't want the door to deflect over time. You don't want it sagging, and that's one of the reasons I like pivot hardware. It keeps everything nice and lined up for a long time. There's a couple unique things that I did with this particular door. You'll see across the top here, everything is lined up really well with these miters, how they go together. But in order to be able to actually have the door pop open with a push like this, I had to actually install the door slightly out of plane so that it's a little bit cross-legged. And the reason for that is it gives me that little bit of extra space right here to push the door in and allow it to throw open. If you come up here on the jamb, we've got a Sugatsuni. I know I'm not saying that right, but it's a Sugatsuni throw mechanism here. So whenever you push it in, it's got a nice powerful throw that's gonna pop that door open. So we'll go ahead and remove this at this time before paint, but for the finished product, we didn't want to have a handle on it. We didn't want it to be visible. So using a throw mechanism like that, it just works really well. You just got to push to open. If we look at the slats on this door, they're all, I believe they were 1/2 inch thick. To be able to push this open, I had to rabbet this slat that goes on the outside of the door. And you'll notice if you get in here nice and close, you can see the shadow line back here because there's actually a gap on the back side of this slat going the whole way. And that allows us to push that in and get that throw going on. So just minor details, but kind of fun to do stuff like this. And then if you look over on this side, you know, how does this door actually work? How do we keep it invisible? This piece overlaps, and then over here, the door underlaps. So you'll see the door edge back here. It closes up against this piece, so this piece is stationary. on the wall, and then this piece is stationary on the door, and that's how you use pivot hardware with slat wall details like this. So hope that makes sense. So moving from the master bedroom, we enter here. Gonna have a really cool fireplace detail here as well. Then we've got what is being called the den over here. We did a little bit of work in here up on the top side. One thing about these really modern houses is they use a lot of different finishes. In traditional style homes, the trim carpenter used to get all the glory because it was all about moldings and millworks. On more modern homes, we're integrating a lot more steel and hard surface marble type finishes and stuff that kind of integrate with our millwork. So right here we did this slat wall detail. It's got 1/2-inch poplar plywood on the back with our slats applied on top of that. And then this will get a hard surface material that will cover the entirety of the face here. Again, doesn't look like much now, but it's gonna be sweet once it's all done. One thing that's probably a little difficult for you to appreciate is the ceiling height in this home. We've got a flat roof detail. It's a really low pitch roof. Again, that modern architecture that's not very common in Indiana. This house looks more like it would belong in California or somewhere like that. But we've got in this master bedroom a 14-foot ceiling height, which is, you know, pretty awesome. You don't get that a lot. Walking out of the master bedroom, coming over here into the great room again, you can kind of appreciate the size of this space and the amount of light that is allowed to come in off of the golf course back here. We've got a bunch of these super fancy Anderson sliding doors. Over there, we've got a couple of even their Anderson exterior pocket doors. They're really cool stuff, lets in a ton of light. It's gonna be a neat fireplace detail here again. I'm losing some of the glory here to other trades. We got hard surface going on, and we've actually got metal over here. And then I will be doing a floating hearth mantle deal across here. I was in here all the way back at framing stage and installed these brackets for this floating mantle. So those are nice and solid. They hold a lot of weight so that once that's installed, you can jump up and down on it and it's not gonna go anywhere. We've got a very expensive modern door here. Always kind of dread it whenever we have to work around a door that's got a flat black finish on metal, because if you screw up and drop something that falls out of your tool bag or off a ladder and it scratches or dents this thing, you're gonna be in big trouble. Thankfully that didn't happen. We've got some wood on it, not really too much to say, but again, it's just gonna be a really cool look after it's all done. We're walking into the powder bath here, and the homeowner had kind of a unique desire. There's 2 rooms in this house that have this panel detail, and it doesn't really look like much. It's just edge banded poplar plywood applied to the wall, but we do have a hidden compartment in here. Just kind of a neat thing for me to do, kind of had to think outside the box a little bit. So I installed this niche. As you can see, it's poplar hardwood, but you can see we've got a drywall finish coming all the way around here. I actually rabbited out my jamb with the wood right here so that they could lay their drywall tape in there and then mud all the way around this niche. And then I installed my panels. So it gives it a nice seamless look all the way around here, and you can close that and not really even tell that it's there. Panning over here from the great room, this will be the kitchen area, and then that brings us over to the staircase here. Nothing too crazy, but it did have some unique features here. You'll notice in the skirt board going all the way up here, we've got a groove going the whole way. That's gonna be for an LED light channel. It'll get aluminum with a plastic diffuser over the top, but that'll be a neat look. Kind of fun carpentry work to put that channel in. And then obviously you've got to get all your miters bisected correctly to have this flow really nicely the whole way with the same offset above our tread the whole way. Actually used the power feeder on the table saw with the dado stack to make this, and it worked out pretty good. I'm a little perturbed right now because the electrician likes me to use a full 1/2 inch deep channel for the type of LED connectors that they like, which I don't like because you can't hardly take a whole 1/2 inch deep by 3/4 dado off in one pass, even with a power feeder. So it's a little bit tricky doing that, but anyways, it turned out decent. If we move over here to the end of our staircase, they kind of had like a waterfall design that they wanted to have. Obviously, to be up to code, you do need to have a certain amount of nosing. So even though we kind of have that waterfall look, we do still have the nosing, but everything is flush on the end. Turned out really good. We've just got end grain flowing all the way down through there. And then you'll see applied on the front of this wall is nickel gap, cut nice and tight to the underside of our treads and risers the whole way. Here we've got a tray, a dropped tray ceiling detail, and it'll have an LED light going around the top of this channel up here. The tricky thing is the drywallers basically had this drywalled, and then we had a really jagged cut edge on the drywall going all the way around this. So it was kind of a question, how are we going to get a nice crisp finish whenever we apply our white oak trim around here? It just called for a 1x around this perimeter, but I knew it needed something a little bit more. So I actually made this a thicker 1x and rabbited the whole thing. That way it covers that jagged drywall edge, and we get a really nice crisp line going all the way around here, and it's nice and straight. If we would have tried to apply just a 1x to the front, it just would have been wavy and it just wouldn't have looked good. Having this rabbit detail where it wraps around, it allowed us to float it straight and just give us a lot better transition. You will notice there's no handrail or balusters or anything on this yet. I think it's getting a glass handrail detail, and that's being outsourced to somebody else. So basically I just had to put the treads on and get it to this point, and then somebody else will take it from there. As we move around here, had a really unique request. The homeowner wanted a hidden door going down to the basement. They didn't originally want a basement with this property, but because of the excavating conditions, they ended up just needing to put it in anyways, but they're not actually going to use it that much. This is going to be a really cool like wine niche display detail, and they didn't want like an ugly door right here. So we spruced it up and put this hidden door right here with the same nickel gap detail that we have going around the stair wall here. You will notice I did use poplar for this. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get the door open anymore. There we go. I used poplar for this just because I knew I was gonna have some thin edges. I wanted this to be real wood instead of using the MDF nickel gap material that we typically use. The MDF paints up really well and it's a little bit less expensive, but I wanted a solid wood on the face of this. So again, bricks and pivot hardware for this nice big heavy door. You always, in my opinion, want to use an 1 3/4 inch thick door when you're doing hidden doors. It's what you need with the pivot hardware, and then they just tend to stay flatter and swing better also. So closing this up, if I had to do this again, I would have designed it differently. I wouldn't have used a true nickel gap material that's tongue and groove, where you have a really thin groove detail. I would have went with more of a shiplap design, which is a rabbet, not a tongue and groove. And then it would have given me the ability to have the groove a little bit wider here. Because of how tight the tolerances are, I'm a little bit concerned with expansion and contraction over time. You'll see I had to leave a gap right here. It's maybe a 1/16 of an inch just to allow for some expansion. But fingers crossed, hopefully we're okay. I don't love the design, but my hands were tied a little bit. As a carpenter, when the designers say, hey, we want a hidden door in a nickel gap wall, you kind of got to figure out a way most of the time, if it's at all possible. So it was possible, it's working good. Same principle as I talked about earlier with the other hidden door. On this edge, we're overlapping, and on the back edge here, we're underlapping with the door. And so this underlaps on this edge, and as you can see, that conceals nicely over here, pushing it open. See, that action is just really good. We do have a strong 16th up here. You want to give yourself some margin in case the house does move a little bit. If you make this gap too tight and the house settles and it's not even, it just doesn't look good. But these hidden doors look much better if you paint them a dark color. If this gets painted a dark color, this gap won't be nearly as visible. And same thing over here where we've got a little bit of a gap. If this is painted a dark color, it'll look a lot better. So I think it is supposed to be a fairly dark color. It'll look better that way. But yeah, pretty cool project. I'll end up putting some throw hardware on this as well so that it's pushed to open a little bit later on. With these modern homes, we're seeing a lot more drywall returns come back into style. And if you remember, I actually made a video on this house quite a long time ago now, showing our process for prepping the rough openings for drywall returns. So we actually stood here at this very window and shot a video on how to shim these. They look great. What you want with your drywall returns is to end up with having the same margin all the way around the window, just like you would if you're applying casing. With rough openings, you can't just apply drywall directly to a rough opening. You've got to shim your rough openings to get the drywall where it needs to be. So these all look great. Means we do less actual trim work at trim phase, but I find it takes just as long to shim all these openings as it would to apply casing to a window at trim phase. So the cost and labor is about the same. One last thing to finish up, you'll notice we've got a pretty thin casing profile on here. I shouldn't say thin, a narrow profile. It's only about 2 1/4 wide. We found that we had some real trouble with having so many of these big exterior doors. The jamb material on these exterior doors was actually about as wide as our casing. So on a lot of these doors, we couldn't even nail our casing on. We actually had to glue it on and then use tape and screw blocks on to pinch it to the walls the whole way around. So that took some time. I definitely lost my shirt applying casing to these exterior doors on this house for that reason. A cool door we're seeing a lot more of are these exterior Anderson doors. They slide into a pocket, but we've actually got the golf course right out here. So you can sit out here and entertain and basically open up your house to the outdoors with one of these units. It's pretty cool, but that's it. It's a really neat setting out here. Got the golf course, private country club right behind you. It's gonna be a neat house once we get all the finishes in here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Just wanted to show you some of the details we had on it. Not a super trim heavy house, but it's pretty cool nonetheless.